they talk about releasing the Epstein files. And this thing is locked in Congress and none of the Republicans are going to vote for it. The moment it appears, oh shit, it's going to happen, suddenly it's a vote. It goes to the Senate that night. It is voted on by unanimous consent and immediately goes. And that's when this is why I think people are cynical about Congress. What it shows is, all of that reticence was nonsense. You had the ability to do this whenever you wanted to. You had the votes to do it. It took 30 seconds. And now you're all claiming, you saw the floor of the House. They're all cheering. Hey! Mike, is that the part where you go, are we just putting on a play down here?
I think it's the part where you decide to run for governor.
Wow.
Quite frankly.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Show podcast with Jon Stewart. My name is actually Jon Stewart, so it is appropriate that I'm the one who is addressing you right now. It is Wednesday. It is November 19th. The world's still celebrating the shock vote from the House and the Senate, which shows that when they want to get something done, they can do it immediately because all of their prevaricating and all of the stalling and all those things was absolute bullshit. They could have done this thing from the start and gotten it out there instead of all the rigmarole about getting the Epstein files released. And it is on to the desk of President Donald Trump, who I'm sure will sign it. And we will have access to all of the information, non-redacted, unclassified, except obviously protecting victims' names. And we will finally get to the bottom of all this. I, of course, am lying and being sarcastic. But, we will see what we see. But on the other side, on the other front, there have been developments electorally this past November that I think many people were excited about. And we're very fortunate today to have two of the leaders of that electoral charge and two governor-elects that are going to be joining us to discuss not just their road to becoming governors, but the fact that they're both, oddly enough, really connected in a variety of kind of different and interesting and cool ways. So we're just going to get right to them. Here they are. And so we have, as our guest today, very exciting, tremendous election victories this November by margins that, in the words of Donald Trump, have never been seen before in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill, Democrat, New Jersey, Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, Democrat, Virginia, governors-elect. How are you?
Hello.
Congratulations. Now, we spoke earlier, governor-elect is the proper title, but when you become governor, and this is particularly for Virginia, you will be referred to as Your Excellency.
Her Excellency, for the first time in Virginia history, actually.
You are. You're the first. And Mikie, you're only the second woman to ever be elected in New Jersey.
Right. Yeah. And I think that Her Excellency might be solely in Virginia. I am quite sure that will not be the title here in New Jersey. But yeah, it's really exciting. And the first woman veteran ever elected as governor in the United States. So
really
exciting. Yeah.
You both come. Here's the thing people don't realize. You're sort of bonded by this barrier breaking achievement. You become governors in states, as you said, Mikie, only the second. Christy Whitman, you're the first Democrat. Mm-hmm. Abigail, Virginia's never had that. Yep. But people might not realize your stories line up really, really in an interesting fashion. You're both in sort of the national security state. Mikie, you're a veteran. Abigail, you were CIA. Yep. You come to Congress in 2018, and not to get too together, you room together in Congress, and this is where it gets a little bit weird. Mikie, you were born in Virginia, and now you're the governor of New Jersey. Abigail, you lived in New Jersey, and now you're this is like one of those, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy.
I know.
And Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. How did you find each other for the first time? When was that?
Well, the stars aligned, obviously, with all the connections, but we were both running in that 2018 cycle, and there were groups of people that were supporting veterans that were especially, supporting women veterans. That was that class, as you know, with Alyssa Slatkin and Chrissy Houlihan, Elaine Luria. So we had gotten to know each other even before we got into Congress. And because we come from that background of service, we were sort of team players. We worked with a group, and while there were a lot of people in Congress that sort of felt like they were an army of one, I remember one of my members of the New Jersey delegation, I said, are we going to come together and make, do this? And they said, oh, I got to be honest with you, it's every man for himself.
By the way, feel free to name all names, including nicknames, at any point that you want to do that. But had you known each other before you both made the decisions, Abigail, to run for Congress, or this through the process of, because people forget the 2018 election was the, oh my God, what have we done election. Trump had won in 2016, and the American public at that time thought, I didn't think it was going to go this way. And so the congressional election in 2018 was a real barn burner for Democrats.
That's right. And we had met each other along the campaign trail, like Mikie said, because we would do events together as predominantly as folks with national security backgrounds, but also as women with national security backgrounds. We had one other connection, which is that Mikie's sister, one of her two sisters, I also have two sisters, was my constituent in my first election. She later moved out of state, but for a time I claimed her. So I would get updates on Mikie's race as well, even from her sister, who I would see frequently.
Very clearly, let's point out, Mikie's sister did not move out of your district because of it. Not because I'm sure it was a different situation. It was a life situation. It had nothing to do with the representation.
No, she hosted Canvas kickoffs for me. She was a super volunteer.
Oh my gosh. I called her. I'm like running this hard, I thought very difficult campaign in a Trump district, as Abigail was. And I called my sister up one morning. I had like 5 minutes. And I was like, hey, she's like, I can't talk. I'm about to launch a canvas for Abigail Spanberger. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm running too. I'm running too.
She was very pleased. And you knew her already. When you're in Washington and you're in these freshman classes, how do they do the roommate selection? Because it is, generally, especially freshman members will try and team up 2, 4, whatever to an apartment. Is that something is there an orientation that takes place where they bring in the freshman Congress people and say, you're going to need an apartment or a pied-à-terre or something along those lines? How did you guys end up going, okay, are you with anybody on this project? Let's partner up.
Well, I'll start, Mikie. We were, so Lois Frankel from Florida. I'll name names because she'll be pleased.
What I was going to say.
Lois Frankel from Florida always reaches out she's very supportive of women candidates. And so she creates this network. And then when you get elected, Lois says, I can help find you an apartment. She has her side activity.
Real estate agent to the stars. That's nice.
Her side activity is helping people find apartments. And so we both went through the Lois connection. Initially, I was very determined to sort of, find my own way and not leverage Lois. And then I failed in finding an apartment. So I went to Lois and we ended up, Mikie and I were both actually on the same floor within the same apartment building. So we were initially sort of like fake roommates, and we would end up walking to the office together and back, and we were fake roommates for a bit, and then from there we decided to be real roommates and get
take
a
the
place
plunge
together.
Was it, Mikie? Was it a nerve-wracking conversation? Like, I really want to ask Abigail, but I'm nervous. She's not going to want a room together. Was it anything? Did you just?
No, but it was funny because I think our families feel like it was like this. They all seem to think that going to Washington was this sort of sorority type situation where we were just taking a break from life and going down there. And, we would just go down there and get beaten to hell. And you'd be working these days and you'd come home and, and more than once we're sitting there eating. And the one way it was like college is we'd come home and be eating like pickles and peanut butter or nuts or something. There'd be no food in the house because you can't leave it there. It spoils when you're back home and all that, this kind of really like tough days in the office, if you will.
Ramen noodles, the whole
things were not always going real smoothly in Congress. And then you'd get home and you'd be like, oh God, I'm exhausted. And, I know my husband, Jason, would be like, yeah, whatever. Kind of like, oh, you're exhausted from hanging out and, no kids, nothing, so it was always a little bit.
My husband, Adam, said, make sure you mention the potato, which is kind of shorthand for the way that, we would go to the office, we were working all the time. And so we never had any good food. And so occasionally when my husband, Adam, would come, he was like, why is there a single potato in the refrigerator? And it was like there for months and months and months. And we would have these terrible conversations about how many years expired does string cheese need to be before you shouldn't eat it?
Dear God.
I know. It's actually embarrassing. We probably shouldn't admit to this, Mikie.
All right. TMI, Abigail. Come on. This is circle and trust stuff. No more. No.
It's you two moved into Animal House.
We had to run for governor to lift ourselves up. To be Her Excellency. No more eating raw potatoes, I guess.
I don't know.
But it is interesting to hear. It's the type of thing that you don't hear that much about in terms of, freshman congresspeople, and there's all the pomp and circumstance and the news organizations. But underneath it all, there really is a disorienting process of getting involved in government. And it's interesting to me in that, look, you guys both come from, Mikie, a military background, Abigail, security state background. And now you're thrust into this really dysfunctional world. You're used to mission. You're used to order. You're used to chain of command.
Showing up on time.
Yes. What was it like learning the sorts of, this is how we do it down here, and thinking to yourselves, well, that's not how they should do it anywhere. That seems ass backwards. What was that experience like?
I think that's probably what the most disorienting thing was. To get down there, to have come in on this blue wave, to have built these campaigns, much like we just did from the ground up, speaking to, as many people as we could, because we were flipping Trump districts. So it wasn't just about...
Both of you in districts that really had not had a Democrat in maybe decades.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so you were building something. You were talking to people and convincing them and connecting with them that you had a better path forward. And then we arrived in Congress and it really was, I thought, with this sense of, okay, we've cracked the code. We should now be in the majority in the House of Representatives forever. This should really be lasting. And here's what we saw and here's how we did it. And it was, striking to encounter an organization that had a lot of inertia, where people weren't that interested in changing, that they wanted to keep doing what they were doing. And I would say that's, part of the reason why in the House we were out of power in only 2 terms, because we, I think, focused on many of the right things, but we didn't deliver on things that I think would have been easy wins. And that was the fight Abigail and I engaged in constantly. Let's not send a messaging bill. Let's effectively pass a piece of legislation. And the disconnect between, the people want to see us sending a message. And Abigail and I, having been on the ground saying, no, if we don't deliver, if we don't actually deliver for people, nobody in my district wants a message. They want flood prevention, that kind of thing.
Hey, for those of you who listen to the podcast, wait, are you like me? Do you like food? Do you like to put it in your old, I guess they call it pie hole there? Do you have time to cook your food? Because you got to do it every day, 3 times a day, which is 10 million times a year. I'm not great at math. But this episode right here is sponsored by people that actually make food. It's called Factor. Chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals. And then you can like stay on track with your eating and enjoy something comforting and delicious without having to clean up and buy the food and do all the things that you should be doing instead of reading podcast ads, which, as you know, I love. I'm sorry. The point is this Factor there, you choose from a wide selection of meal options, a wide variety, bold flavors from all around the world, not just tri-state area. Like they're pulling stuff from everywhere. And they're healthy meals. You get more choices, better nutrition. 97% of customers, which is unheard of, say Factor helped them live a healthier life. I mean, 97%. What is it? Only 4 out of 5 doctors recommend sugarless gum. There's 20% of doctors are out there like, yeah, sure, all the sugar, sure, I'm sure it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. 97%, unheard of. Eat smart at factormeals.com/TWS50off and use code TWS50off to get 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for a year. Free breakfast for a year? What? That's code TWS50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. It's such an interesting place because it so functions on seniority and, you know, the difficulties of, and here you guys are, you're coming in as younger people. It's your first experience in the House, and you've got all the energy that the voters have instilled in your campaigns and in this movement. And it must have been to have worked that hard, and you feel like you get to this place where you're going to be able to fulfill that and see that the very structure of it is built to restrain that. Abigail, that had to have been, you know.
It is. It flies in the face of all of my natural tendencies. But this is what I will say, speaking very truthfully about the realities of Congress, but also in case there's anyone who's thinking about running for Congress listening, even though that is how it functions, you don't have to function within that frame. And so I remember when we first got there, and I represented a district that was very heavily public servants, retired police officers, retired federal employees. And there was this little provision in Social Security law that basically stole people's, as I use my aggressive language, stole people's Social Security benefits. So if you had pursued a career of firefighters, police officers, teachers, some postal employees, federal workers, if you had pursued a career in, public service, but also throughout your working years, worked a job where you also, it was private sector, when you retired, because you might have had some, in many cases, very nominal public sector pension, you saw your Social Security benefits reduced in some cases, thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Wow. And
so people were headed off into their retirement, get their first Social Security check, and it's fractions of what they thought they would get.
Right.
And this law went into place back in the 80s. I get to Congress saying, "Oh my goodness, okay, we're gonna fix this."
Right.
Everyone agrees. For a time, it was the most sponsored bill, and I co-led it with a Republican from Louisiana.
A bipartisan co-sponsored bill. Fantastic.
Yes. And everybody said, "Oh, but if we're going to do this, if we're going to repeal these terrible 2 provisions." And where it was really horrible is if someone lost their spouse. They themselves had worked throughout their career.
Wow.
They lost a spouse who had been a firefighter, police officer. They saw their own as the surviving spouse, their Social Security benefits. People were thrust into poverty. People lost their homes. It's an outrage. But frankly, part of the problem is so many, there are more than 3.2 million people who saw change the day we ultimately, I'll get to the finish of it, passed this bill. But people would say, "Oh yeah, I support it. I would support it." And they'd co-sponsor it. We'd have all these co-sponsors, but then year after year, we couldn't actually get leadership, Democratic or Republican leadership, to bring it for a vote.
People have to. You don't realize, people can co-sponsor. They can do whatever they want. But if it doesn't go through leadership, because leadership controls, and in the House especially, which is a zero-sum game, whoever controls it has full control of committees, of what gets to be voted on, of any of those different situations. So you can have all that, and they just hold on to it.
And on the Democratic side of the aisle, the pushback we would get would be like, "Well, we need to do a general reform. Let's save this for a larger reform because, frankly, like giving benefits back to people who earned it seemed like the sweetener. And then on the Republican side of the aisle, it was, oh, this will cost so much. Well, it will cost so much because we're actually giving people their earned benefit, right? Like,
oh, it costs so much because we're fixing a problem that occurred
right.
within the money they've already given to the government.
And I think one of the most horrifying things is this: when the CBO scored it, they actually said that we would see cost reductions in some of the safety net programs because suddenly seniors who had worked their lives in service to their community or their country would no longer be eligible for food stamps or, SNAP programs and safety net programs. Long story short, we ended up doing a discharge petition because we couldn't get leadership to bring it. We forced the hands of, leadership in the House.
People familiar with discharge petitions now because of
everybody knows
Epstein. Everybody knows the title now.
Before, I used to have to reference Legally Blonde 2, where that's where a discharge petition.
That's where we all learned
notoriety.
It's the schoolhouse rock of the new generation.
So we got it through. We got it signed into law. It was the last bill signing that President Biden did before he left, and it's changed lives everywhere across Virginia. And I got letters from across the country.
But think about that. You're talking about 6 years. You go in there and you do that. And we just said, okay, it was the last bill President Biden signed. Well, that's 6 years after you guys had come into Congress and wanted that. And Mikie, and this is great because I think it encapsulates all of the frustration at times that is the congressional body. So much of it is Republicans, like in high school, going door to door and going, would you sponsor me? I'm doing a dance-a-thon. And you have you have a very particular thing that you want to do, right? That's going to fix a problem. And then you get all the signatures and you get the bill that you want it to be. And then leadership will tell you, well, actually, we're playing this different game where we're trying to, use leverage for those things to get this other thing. Is that something that happened to you, Mikie, as well?
It did. And I think, in some cases you get it right. It's really trying to get the voting block you need to get stuff forward and what the deal is. I think the problem for people like myself and Abigail, she just charted out, was this sense that we ran tough races. And when you run tough races, you win in places that don't have Democratic votes by connecting with people, by saying, look, I'm a Democrat, I'm a proud Democrat, and I'm a proud Democrat because I deliver for working people, and here's what I'm going to do. And I will tell you, after years of serving in my district, I would win with about a quarter of registered Republicans and stuff like that because of delivering effective government to people. And you do see sometimes in Washington, there is sort of this disconnect. And there is, I remember, something that I think would blow our minds often, and we've talked about it, is we were told there was this procedural motion that they always wanted you to just vote with the party on. And yet the votes, they would be gotcha votes from Republicans. And they'd say, well, just tell your constituents that it's a procedural vote. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go tell my constituents after I vote against something they really, really want. Don't worry about it, guys. It's just a procedural vote. Like, disconnected. And I think because you've been there. I mean, you fought, John, for 9/11 funding, for the Victim Compensation Fund. You fought for the PACT Act. So you see how hard it can be. But to Abigail's point, you see how good leadership, how people who are elected, who are focused on the people they serve, can get stuff accomplished in a powerful way. It just, it feels like in too many cases, that becomes very difficult with the leadership in place, with a sort of leadership that's disconnected from the people. And certainly with Mike Johnson, I mean, that is a man who is not serving the people. He is serving Donald Trump.
Sure.
And so with that kind of leadership, you get nothing done.
I also think it's what I viewed from being down there is that Washington works on a different currency system than the rest of the country does. It's almost as though you've gone into the Eurozone when you go into DC, because as you just said, So there's sort of this idea of direct, and I'll give you an example. So when we talked about like PACT Act or Zadroga was the 9/11 first responders bill, and Democratic leadership. And I don't think you guys were there yet. This was earlier. This was probably 2015, 2014.
That was early. We were just getting money for the Victim Compensation Fund in our
That's right.
first term.
Okay. So that was the 2019 vote, I think.
Yep.
So we would go down there and we'd say, these people are dying of cancer. And the Congress people would say, and absolutely right, but we can't go and put it on the floor through regular order. We're going to try and sneak it into the omnibus bill, like transportation, which passes every year, or the NDAA, which is the defense.
Yeah, National Defense Authorization.
Right.
That's right. Do my best work. Yes.
We're just going to jam it in there. And then in the Senate, Mitch McConnell would say, actually, I want an export tax on petroleum. So I'm going to remove and it was all a jigsaw puzzle that they were working on, but none of it, to your point. I guess when you were down there, did you see a system that was so out of touch? And my frustration with it was it didn't have to be. That the rules that they would tell you are, sacrosanct. They broke all the time.
Yeah.
And I saw Abigail's eyes just literally like rolled back into her head. Like, but what you begin to realize is, oh, this is all bullshit. Yeah. They're pretending that these things are sacrosanct when they manipulate them all the time. And they could actually do it to the good.
And I think one of the challenges is that, then when you, particularly in the House, because there's just so many members, when you're kind of withholding information and when votes come up so quickly, it becomes at times a disorienting process for newer members or for members who are endeavoring to really be effective and do things. I in the early days of COVID, I was sitting on the floor with Chip Roy, who, for anyone who's unaware, Chip Roy is a right winger of the sort of, best example.
But a right winger's right wing, like even beyond most right wingers are like, won't sit on the floor with Chip Roy. Like it's too hard.
No, it was sometimes just me, actually, at times. And now the similarities, you try to find similarities. This is how you govern. Chip Roy and I are both UVA grads. We both happen to have the same birthday. And
wow.
And in 2019, UVA was the national champions in basketball. So,
right.
A year later, basketball season's, not really happening because of COVID. We're sitting on the floor and we're talking. And this was when there was story after story of, all these stock trades in the early days of COVID.
Yes.
And so he and I are sitting there and we're saying, this is kind of outrageous. And whether you think that people are intentionally trying to get rich off of information or not, kind of doesn't matter. The fact that everybody thinks and it's being reported as though it's fact that you're in this meeting and then you buy this stock, therefore it's corruption. Like, let's put an end to it. So we did something that, not, and Mikie can speak to this as well, like not all the time do people just write their own bills. I always wrote my own bills, but a lot of people think you got to go to committee to like, mother, may I get my bill? We said, this is wrong. Let's write a bill to fix it. We consulted with all these sort of good governance groups that were a little bit kind of surprised by the combination of me with Chip Roy, and in fact, we really went from a place where people would be deeply offended, and I would have many members tell me, you're implying that members of Congress are corrupt, to which I would say, it actually doesn't matter, like whether it's true or not. If the public perceives it, it's on us to change that perception.
Right.
And it's amazing because in a short period of time, what went from a bill that was, broadly seen as this, a Democrat and Republican sort of pushing up against tradition in their parties has a really broad coalition. When I left Congress to run for governor, Seth Magaziner was the Democrat who's now continued to work with Chip on this bill. And it's really got some legs to it. And, we'll see, because so far a lot of people are saying, yes, they want it to be brought for a vote. But it's interesting to just see the way that, to Mikie's point, when you're being responsive to the things that you're hearing on the ground and what the American people or your constituents want.
Right. But you got to hear them.
like, and so everyone's surprised. Oh, wow, this is really popular. Yeah, of course it's popular because people deserve to trust their government, and we should take proactive actions to help them do that.
Listen, a great example, Mikie, you can speak to that. They talk about releasing the Epstein files, and this thing is locked in Congress, and nobody is going to vote. None of the Republicans are going to vote for it. We're not going to bring it to the floor. There's this huge discharge petition, and they get the 217, and then there's a representative in a special election from Arizona. She's the 218th, and that's all they need, and then they can force the vote. Great. I'm not going to swear her in. We're just going to keep this thing. Mike Johnson holds it back. Everything goes. This is the most controversial. How dare they? The Senate, it'll die in the Senate. There's nothing that can be done. And the moment it appears, oh shit, it's going to happen, suddenly it's a vote. It's 434-1. It goes to the Senate that night. It is voted on by unanimous consent and immediately goes. And that's when this is why I think people are cynical about Congress. What it shows is, all of that reticence was nonsense. You had the ability to do this whenever you wanted to. You had the votes to do it. It took 30 seconds. And now you're all claiming, you saw the floor of the House. They're all cheering. Hey, it's what we fought. It was exactly that way with PACT Act, exactly that way with Zadroga. Mike, is that the part where you go, are we just putting on a play down here?
I think it's the part where you decide to run for governor. Quite frankly.
Really?
When you start to say, look, because you're right, you could use your power for good. If you were just relentlessly focused on serving the public,
right, it
would not only be, using your powers for good, it would be very powerful.
And the people are thirsty for it, really thirsty.
And yet people, I think, get so caught up in these like arcane, weird things, and we can't do it this way, and we have to do it that way. And the only thing we can do to leverage power is to do it with only Democrats or only Republicans, and we can't do this. And so I'll tell you, I got on the ground here and I'm running hard, and I can't tell you how many times as I was running, people said, Mikie, everybody says that. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, everybody says that. And so then I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to hold me accountable. On day one, I'm going to declare a freeze on utility rate hikes. So here we are, like, brass tacks. I'll be very clear so you don't think I'm making something up or speaking in generalities or, coming up with a 10-year plan. I'm going to do it. And immediately, even members of my own party are like, oh, I don't think you can do that. I'm like, I know exactly. People kept saying, how are you going to do that? I go, here's how I'm going to do it. And they're, can you do it? I go, I know exactly how I'm going to do it. And yet, even in my own party, it's like, I don't know. I don't think so. Let's write a strongly worded letter.
Is the fear, the Chuck Schumer method works very, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I am 62 years old. I'm going on 63. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but gravity is a bastard. Gravity has been pulling me down for God knows how long. And I am giving in. I'm not going to lie to you. I am no match for gravity. I need help. And that's why these dudes, such an awesome thing. It's an uplift desk. What more do I do than work? And it's always at my desk and it's always sitting down, which is what I'm doing all day long. But this uplift desk, it gets you moving. It's called the Uplift V3 standing desk. It's this, you don't sit at it. You can make the transitions between sitting and standing. It's not even hard to put together. And it's got like, I guess they call it a flex mount cable manager, keeps cords organized. It's out of sight. It's got upgraded speed and stability and the ergonomics. Because I'll be honest with you, it's got to be good ergonomics. I will fall down. I am a problem when it comes to the getting up and the going down. And you don't have to worry about it looking crappy. There's a wide range of desktop styles, accessories. Set it up however you want. It's the Uplift V3 standing desk. Work better, live healthier. Go to upliftdesk.com/weekly and use code weekly for 4 free accessories, free shipping, free returns, and a 15-year warranty. That's upliftdesk.com/weekly and use code weekly for a special offer exclusive to our audience. Is the fear from the party that Like, I know those votes where you say like, oh, they're procedural votes, but they're there to just create the ads. And by the way, the ads. Thank God the election is over. Mikey, I live in New Jersey.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to jump out a window.
Yeah.
It's just
you wanted to jump. They were about me.
That's a good point. By the way, what does
Cry
that
me a river.
feel like? Because it even goes, look, like the stock trade thing. Abigail was talking about. Like, my guess is you were supporting that, but
Yes,
they caught you. They caught you in that, and it was really hard.
Well,
I'm assuming to answer for.
I mean, again, look, there's no crying on the ad here. Like, shame on me for getting caught on some ad that had come out right before I go on a program and not being prepared to talk about it better.
Right.
But that is tough. To Abigail's point, I think it's really important. It's not just impropriety, it's the appearance of impropriety, right? So my husband and I have divested of all individual stocks. We don't trade individual stocks. We don't, we've gone above and beyond ethics. We've put out, and this is really cringy when you're doing it as a candidate, we've put out all of our finances. I mean, you can track to the dollar. And there is no more transparent candidate probably in the history of New Jersey than, what we've put out on all of our information. And so you do all that to really be responsive. But again, sometimes I feel like the New York Post owes me some money because I sold so many papers for them. I mean, they were every single day. I think my favorite, somebody framed it and gave it to me on election night. There was a title that said, Mikie Sherrill's pulling 5 points ahead. Why that's really, really bad for her. I mean, it was every day.
Right.
Jiminy Christmas. So
are there ads that do get under your skin, like Abigail or Mike? Was there an ad that ran that you thought that is so either asinine or outrageous or close to the bone? Like, were there ads that you feared or ads that you just got angry at?
I've certainly reacted differently. Like when you're running your first race and Mikie and I had no political background. We weren't necessarily, didn't know what to expect. And so when the first television ad comes out and it's just like, you're the worst person in the world, it certainly impacted me a lot more back then. And it impacts, I will say, my mother substantially.
Oh, really?
And to this day, by this election, the ads didn't really bother me. I would usually watch them first. This is my coping mechanism. I'd watch an ad first with no sound on, to sort of
to see what you look like in black and white,
to get the visuals of how spooky I look.
Yeah.
There was one ad they did, I guess, in my last congressional race where they sort of superimposed my head on Nancy Pelosi's body, and I think they called me like Nancy Pelosi Jr. or something. And I looked at that one. I was like, wow, I look really good in that color blue. Who knew? But they really impact my mother, most especially because, and so she needs to talk through all the reasons why it's not correct. And then with my kids in my first election, there was an ad where they basically kind of tried to call me a terrorist. And,
wow.
My oldest daughter, I guess she was fourth grade at the time. And she said that, kids on the playground for her and for my first grader would just ask, like, is your mom a terrorist? And they would say, no. And then the kids would sort of run away. But I think.
Well, now we know who the ads are effective for. Fourth graders are really the level. Mikie, did you have that as well? Just ads that, ripple, the effects ripple through the family, or ones that you thought that one's going to be a problem for me?
You never like to see yourself looking like an idiot. I mean, that's just kind of, I think, universal. So you don't love different missteps or you're like, oh, damn it. But to Abigail's point, that the people you're most worried about, oddly, are not your constituents, but your family members,
right?
Your kids, your husband. You just don't want them to face any retribution or blowback because of what you do. But, I think our kids are probably pretty resilient at this point. My son was down the shore and he was really thrilled to report because my opponent was having these airplane banner ads.
Oh, God, he's hitting them up on the shore? God.
One of them said, I can't throw stones from this glass house. We had our own airplane ads, but nevertheless, It said Mikie Sherrill equals Phil Murphy 2.0, which I didn't think was super effective, but my son was thrilled. He was like, "Oh my God, Mom, I saw your name." He's like, "I tried to get a picture. It was on an airplane. It was awesome." So,
Right.
he was quite pleased. But
He didn't realize that was in quotes, a negative ad. He thought it was kind of exciting.
yeah, he was really excited. But I think the key thing for the ads and stuff was to titrate here in New Jersey. I think it's understood here that you need to be swinging in an election. I've had people who work around the country that, will say, I think we're going to have to go negative. And I'm like, yep.
Hell yeah.
I call it just pointing out the truth, but let's go. The people, and when I'm not doing that, there are some races I run where, we don't have to do that. We can just present our case. And people tell me, hey, you're not running hard enough. People here don't think you're running hard enough. So the ads they're like, they come at swing. The thing that bugs me is when they're just so not true. So for example, I was in one interview saying, and the Dino Badala show, I was saying, Democrats can't say this and sort of charting out how, electricity costs, et cetera. And they clipped
right.
it.
If you're a good person, I remember this ad.
Yeah, right. I'm not saying it again, notice, because I don't want to
No.
clipped.
I'll say it. What the ad was Mikie was saying in the guise of what Democrats can't say is it's more expensive for this renewable energy, but if you're a good person, you'll do it. And they took that as you were saying to people, if you're a good person, you'll pay more.
And I was saying the opposite. Yes,
right,
I was saying, we shouldn't be saying this. Now we can drive down costs in this way.
Right.
So that clip, which was just like not true, that was bugging me, and it was important.
It'll eat at you.
Yeah. So, but you can't, it's just, if you're explaining, you're losing. So I couldn't just go up on. So I wasn't going to put $1 million of me direct to camera saying that wasn't actually what I was saying.
Shut up.
Yeah,
you're a jerk.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Do you guys, is there a sense, because the ads, again, it's sort of the conventional thinking is the ubiquity of the ads or how that goes, that's going to dictate who wins. Abigail, they ran, the they, them, she's for they, them, for you. It didn't work on your campaign in the way that people say it worked on Kamala's campaign. But what is the thing? Because as a spectator in New Jersey, watching the ads and all those things, like his ads, they were good. He did a good job misrepresenting or doing whatever it was that he did. And then the election comes and you blew his doors off in a way that, Murphy only beat Sherrill, who was Mikie's opponent, by I think 2 or 3 points last time. Mikie beat him by 13 points.
We like to round up to 14.
Son of a bitch. You know what? I'm going to get a plane and a banner and fly that on the Jersey Shore this year. Hey, Jack, how's that 14 points taste? Abigail, same.
Yep.
So are we missing the point with the people on the ground as to how things are connecting? And what is the importance? Because I know that those ads are the thing that dominate. What are the keys in your mind, Abigail, that candidates do that actually make a difference?
Well, and I think it can change at different levels of depending upon the size of the electorate. Certainly running statewide is different in many ways than running in a congressional race.
You can't touch everybody in the way you can congressional.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And what I believe to be the case is people want to have a sense of who you are as a person, as a candidate. And some of that comes from television ads, and some of that comes from interviews, and some of that comes from just engagement, but they also want to feel like invited into a campaign. I think, and I'll speak for both of our campaigns, and what I found so interesting is, I would talk to people who are always worried about Mikie's race. And I would always say, you don't need to worry about Mikie. Mikie's going to win. She's going to win her primary. She's going to win the election. I have no doubts. Like, relax. Because I think that what people were missing is...
Abigail's talking to my mom, I think.
You guys are your whole job is just calming down each other's moms.
Well, yeah. When our sisters don't do it well enough, then we have to step in.
Right.
But it's about having that engagement. And I think what we did both very well, and I'll just kind of speak a little bit more detail about my race, is we we built out a field organization very, very expansively all across Virginia, where I had people on the ground who were working for the campaign, who were getting together, who were creating community. In the end, I didn't have a primary, so I had the advantage of more time. So, in the spring, we were doing petition parties where we were getting people together. They were coming together around something that they care about, which in this case was the election. And then those people continued on through the summer, knocking doors and going to farmers markets and getting out and delivering signs. And, importantly, while a lot of these negative ads were out there, I always thought it was extraordinarily important to have positive bio, what am I for ads, because you can't just be about, vote against this person.
Right.
And, we're trying to deliver an economic message on affordability. And I'll take credit for this, whether I don't know if in the end, the people who made my television ads liked it or not. But I was like, why don't I just say, like, there's so much more to be done than you can say in a 30-second ad. And can I put the website up? And everyone's like, oh, I don't know that anybody will go to the website. I'm like, well, if they don't, but at least they know, and so then we would say, like, this is what I'm for. I'm for a more affordable Virginia. Go to affordablevirginia.com to see my plans. And we did a lot of bio work as well, so that people understood who I am as a person, why I'm running. And what was interesting is the ways that people would create threads of personal connections, whether, it's because they're also parents of school age kids, or because they too had grown up. My father was career law enforcement. My mother was a nurse. And so I would have people say, like, oh, my mom was a nurse too. I know what that means. Right. And these threads of places where people are recognizing that there is some commonality in this world that at times feels so chaotic and so disconnected, and people are at each other's throats, to have those threads and also know, like, oh, that's the woman who says she wants to work really hard, to do right by me and my community and the people I love. And so it's kind of all of those pieces that essentially making it so that nobody could go anywhere without kind of hearing my name or knowing a little bit about what it is that I might be for.
The reason I bring it up is because we talked about the disconnect between kind of the Washington establishment and the leadership of the party and the needs of the people that they purport to represent. And that dissatisfaction and disconnect, I think, is what in many ways gave space for somebody like Donald Trump to demagogue and to get into power. But the other thing is the disconnect between the national narrative about what people like yourselves represent for the Democratic Party. So everything you heard was, what is the Democratic Party Mamdani and socialism? Or is it Mikie Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger and the national security mom? What is it?
Who are also really boring, right? We would always get guests.
and boring and not Mamdani and can't do that. And what you realize is on the ground, it's none of that shit.
Yeah.
It's the story of an individual connecting on different levels in many different ways. And the narratives that were fed at a national level through the media or through party leadership are so disconnected. And Mikie, did you feel that as well in yours?
Oh, certainly. I finally was in one interview with someone who asked me for like the 12th time in interviews and stuff, what is it, you or is it Mamdani, or what do people think about Mamdani, or what are you going to do about him?
Who's the leader?
And I just looked at him and I said, you know what? You're the only person asking me about Mamdani right now. I don't go around to Metuchen and people are like, oh my gosh, Mikie, the number one thing on my mind today as I woke up was, what do you think about Mamdani? It was, how are you going to lower my utility cost, right? I never heard it on the ground.
Which, by the way, is what he ran on.
Right.
You may have different prescriptions, but that's what he ran on.
Right. Exactly. And so what we need to do as Democrats is field candidates who are connecting with people. That's A. And that's what I think, everyone in the Democratic Party just did right now. But then B, and this is also critically important, is then we need to govern. And we are having a conversation.
Govern.
Right?
Govern.
In the Democratic Party about, the best thing I can do now, I could go around the nation talking about my field program or Latino voters or white working class men and how I overperform there, or how I get young people out, or my social media program that's new. I could chart all this out for everyone. But the best thing I could do for anybody, any Democrat in this country, is to govern the state of New Jersey in an incredibly effective way and find a pathway forward when we have a president of the United States that is trying to destroy the economy of our country and finding ways to deliver for people. That is the very best thing I can do in this position. And we're having a conversation in the Democratic Party with our campaigns about exactly how to deliver for people. And the Republican Party is just 100% doing whatever the hell Trump decides that day. Should we release the Epstein files? Should we not? Whatever you say, boss, right?
We've gotten to now, so we see the dysfunction of the House and how it's removed from the sort of direct governance of getting things done for people and how they overcomplicate what should be much simpler, and direct help for their voters. And that frustration leading you guys to step away and get the top executive job. What I think some people might not realize is the top executive job is not the same in every state. New Jersey has a very different prescription for even what the budget can be. The New Jersey governor is very powerful, has, veto power over a lot of different things. Abigail, you're in a different situation. I think in Virginia, the governor, you can only serve one. You can't serve consecutive terms. You've only got one. And even within that term, it'll be 2 years before you can put your budget forth. Is that correct?
That's right. We're the only state in the country that has a one-term governor limit. You can serve non-consecutive terms, but nobody's done it for decades. And I'll be coming in on our current governor's budget, and we can move forward with our own budget amendments. But the reality is that yes, we're going to be kind of adjusting. I'll be in the middle of my term when I put forth my own budget, and then I'll be leaving when I'm handing a budget off to somebody new. And just yesterday, I was in a large meeting briefing for the House of Delegates Appropriations Committee, looking at the kind of historical revenue coming in, spending in the general fund, and frankly, and they were very clearly outlining, because of so many of the dollars that came in because of COVID that Mikie and I voted for. The state has had a lot of money to move into different places, spending more than we have been bringing in for a number of years. And so, even in that committee, when I was speaking with committee members at the end of a number of presentations, I said, I think everybody saw on page 30 of that presentation that this is going to be, next year, this is going to be the year when our spending can't outpace what we're actually bringing in revenue, because those historical federal dollars that emanated out of the pandemic are no longer there. So there's going to be, and we're so impacted.
And also you'll be penalized, and this is happening in Jersey as well. I mean, Mikie, Trump has removed projects. He is penalizing almost entirely blue states. But have you looked at the levers of governance that you can use to more effectively and directly do the types of things that you're talking about? Is that a practice that you guys are already taking part of?
Yeah. So this may come as a surprise to people, because we run, I've traditionally run these knockdown, drag out fights here in New Jersey for votes and campaigns and issues. But the only reason I do that is so I can govern, so I can actually deliver.
Get to that place, get in that office.
So I can get to that place. And so we've been at it for over a year now, meeting with so many different groups across the state, whether it's, how to revitalize Atlantic City, what it's going to take to build transportation across the state, where those pockets of innovation are that we've got to overinvest in. But layered into all of this is the fact that New Jersey, a state that gives $70 billion more to the federal government than we get back, we are now seeing massive cuts to Title I school funding, to SNAP programs, to Medicare, to the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So at every level, the federal government is failing to run programs that they are on the hook for traditionally. So what this is sort of a both and. Trenton needs to function much more effectively. Right. The red tape and permitting issues are just layered upon layered upon layered. And people have kicked the can down the road, whether it's the state health benefits plan or some of the, flooding problems that we have on the Whippany River. Right. So the can has been kicked. It's time now address that. And really the thing that I have been most, I guess, excited by, because if you live in New Jersey, you have this kind of sense that there's all kinds of entrenched interest in Trenton, and you can go up against them, but you're just going to fail miserably.
And corruption. I mean, flat out. If you
corruption.
live in New Jersey, you understand the level of corruption that's been endemic here since the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to get down to Trenton and to almost have several people come to me with this sense of like, I'm so excited to finally have somebody that's willing to take on the hard fights, to have a meeting with people that, you kind of lay out like, this is going to be rough, guys. We've got like some problems we've got to cut through. We've got entrenched interests that we've got to deal with. We've got, can that's been kicked down the road. We got pension debt, et cetera. And we've got all these cutbacks at the federal level, and we've got to deal with that. And to have them actually be excited that there's somebody that wants to take this on and help navigate this, and a leadership that's going to take it on and not say, oh, let's just duck our heads and hope it happens on somebody else's watch. That was the most exciting thing I saw, was that, hey, everybody is ready to tackle hard problems that have not been addressed for decades here.
Have either of you looked into, Mikie, you mentioned New Jersey gives $70 billion more to the federal government than it gets back. Meanwhile, they're cutting, different transportation projects and those things. And Abigail, I don't know what Virginia's, net payments to the federal government are versus what they get back. I do know that as a state that largely relies on government workers, because, so many of them live near Washington, D.C., I'm sure you guys are suffering through these layoffs that have been occurring within the federal government and all kinds of other problems associated with it. Is there any thought to how these blue state governors who've been penalized so drastically with whether it's ICE enforcement issues or money being taken away from research or schools or any of those things, what governors can do to level that field? So many have just tried to stay out of Trump's way to avoid it, but it's unavoidable. He's going to do it. So is there anything, Abigail, that you've seen that governors can do?
I think there's a variety of different things. In some cases, we've seen some states come together for multi-state compacts, and certainly we will be heavily impacted by the ramifications of HR1, particularly in the healthcare space. Economically, Virginia is set to be the second most financially hurt state in the country in the healthcare space. Many of our rural hospitals will close. We've already had 3 rural health clinics.
She's talking about in terms of like Medicaid rescissions
That's
and
right.
things like that, where they took money away from, and by the way, created a fund to help alleviate some of that for Trump voters in rural areas, but will do nothing for those hospitals in urban areas.
And importantly, the cuts will impact safety net hospitals across the board, urban areas, suburban areas, the like. But importantly, in a state like Virginia, where we have, agriculture is our number one private industry. We are a very rural state in many parts of Virginia, but unfortunately, the parameters and the federal definition that they use for what constitutes rural was meant to get the vote of an Alaska senator. And in fact, the rural hospitals in Virginia that are absolutely rural in who they serve and how they serve them, and in distances that people need to go across, through mountains to get to, we actually don't even qualify here in Virginia for those dollars. Even though we're set to see some of our hospitals close. We've already had 3 rural health clinics announce their closure. So I say that because we have seen some states are moving towards some multi-state compacts to try and leverage telehealth, a variety of different efforts. But importantly, what I think is also missing is because you can't hide from the numbers anymore. It's how many dollars are not flowing into a state. And in a state like the Commonwealth of Virginia, where it's millions upon millions upon millions of dollars pulled back from transportation projects, pulled back from research, at our many, many public universities and private universities, its impacts on healthcare.
Are they trying to force you into austerity plans? Is the idea here, is Trump in any way trying to leverage these blue states to get governors into austerity stances so that they deliver less for their people? Is that, what's this, is the strategy here purely punitive, or is there an electoral message behind all this? Did either one of you have, Mikie, do you have a thought on that?
Can I give a quick answer on
please.
that one?
Yeah.
I honestly think it's a lack of understanding of the basic of economics of how the federal government interplays
I
with
didn't
the
even
state.
give you that option.
Yeah.
I don't actually know that it's as maniacal as that. I think that people are just like, oh, like even the way that Medicaid is broken down between, state payments and federal payments. The fact that giving someone access to preventative health care is actually a cost savings.
Cost benefit, yeah.
Right? Because then they're not rolling into hospitals in an exigent circumstance where because of Ronald Reagan, they will get life stabilizing care. I think it's actually just a total lack of understanding about how the basics of government works and a willingness of Republican legislators, and I'll call out the ones in Virginia, to vote for a bill that, rural hospital leadership in their districts, known Republicans, the list goes on and on. It's not a political issue. We're just writing op-ed after op-ed and waving red flags saying, danger, danger, danger. This is going to hurt us. And in fact, some of the communities that will be most hurt by that bill in particular are the ones that are represented by Republicans in Congress. Though I will note, there are also districts that I won on election day.
Oh, look at that. You got to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's
so good. Everyone's on notice. At least two of them.
I think what's so hard to understand about what's going on here is that I think we have a president who literally doesn't seem to give a crap about the economy of the United States of America and is solely intent on enriching himself. And so, you look at like the regulations around technology for the UAE, they throw billions into his crypto account and suddenly they're all lifted. You're a fossil fuel company, you pay $250 million to his campaign and you get all your regulations lifted. I mean, it is this totally kleptocratic, like corrupt administration. And it's really hard. And it's, I think, especially hard maybe for people who come from this lifetime of public service. And, I started taking oaths to the Constitution when I was 18. I deeply believe in this. This to me, maybe I'm a rube here, but I deeply believe in the values of this nation and that there are so many public servants who really want to serve this country. And so to have a president who really simply wants money and really will sell out the country.
Anything gold
is really, I think, twisty to get your head around. And I think that's why this election was so important, because it was a shot across the bow, as I kept saying it needed to be, to wake up some of the Republicans that, the Trump magic is not going to work here. And they better get off their butts and start blocking some of this and delivering for the American people, or they will be out of office very quickly.
I wonder if maybe I've thought about this all wrong. So I've been thinking about, well, you run blue states. Maybe there's a way, it might be drastic, but a federal tax strike where you say, I've given you $70 billion more than I get back. You're taking money away from me.
I think about that all the time.
We're going to call federal tax strike. Maybe the idea is you go more the Saudi UAE and you say, Donald Trump, I'm going to let you build whatever you want to build, wherever you want to build it. I'm going to give you $10 billion. And maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe states need to start bribing him.
Oh, man.
Seems to be the most. I see. They both just get real sad.
It's like
I think I just made you both
dagger
real
to
sad.
the heart.
Yeah. Is there? Have you guys talked about like a federal tax strike or any of those types of things that could force the hand on these issues?
I think that's a great idea. I talk often about clawing back federal money. I mean, the easiest place to start with that is in the courts. That's the easiest, because how people pay taxes is not, there's not some state portal. There are areas that you can claw back and freeze, but I think that's something that, I know Gavin Newsom brought up how much money California. I would love I would love to start to rework the federal taxation system. If the federal, as I say, and I think people here in New Jersey agree, if they're not going to run the programs, then what are we paying them for? It's like, you're paying us for a service and they're not delivering. So let's stop paying for it.
And it's clearly punitive. He uses it transactionally. He very clearly uses it as leverage. If you don't allow me to choose your professors and your curriculum, I'm going to take away this money.
Or fire your presidents.
Or look, Abigail, you had that UVA suffered that. UVA president was pushed out for some bullshit idea of their DEI programs. And by the way, I've had enough of we're only doing it so that these universities fight anti-Semitism. This is an administration that allows in people who say they have Nazi streaks, who, any time that these text messages come that are horrific, they say, oh, kids will be kids. Like, you want to clean up anti-Semitism, physician, heal thyself. Like, their administration is rife with this nonsense. And yet they use that against your states. And what is, Abigail, what can you do about those things?
Well, in Virginia might be a bit of a unique case, in particular, at least relative to some of the private universities that have come under fire, because our universities are public. The board of visitors, as we call the governing board in the Commonwealth, are appointed by the governor, and then they have to be confirmed by the legislature. And so right now, at a number of our universities, we have boards that are not fully constituted, as is the case with UVA. And in fact, UVA's board, in part because it's not fully constituted, it's missing 5 members. It's also not statutorily compliant because there's requirements related to residency. There's a requirement for a certain number of UVA grads to be on that board. And so they're in the middle of this search process. Of course, they signed on to this weakened pact with the federal government. And, frankly, we're out celebrating that UVA doesn't have to pay any sort of damages to the federal government. Right. The question is, for what?
For what?
And the former president of UVA put out a very, very long letter going through all of the events of the summer.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
It was incredible. And it was something he had written, most of it contemporaneously through the events of the summer. And he spoke to, and this is important in Virginia, he spoke to the fact that their, intentionality around recruitment of students, it isn't necessarily related just to the kind of the diversity that people will think of in gender or in race, but in fact, in making sure that if you are from the coalfields of Virginia, you can get to the University of Virginia. It's not just Northern Virginia kids who make their way there, right? It's that the intentionality of who is coming to study in this place. And so as governor, I will be appointing members of the board that, my goal is that they are steadying the ship, but we also need legislative changes. Another uniqueness about Virginia is it's our attorney general here in the state who appoints the counsel for each of the universities. Right. And so when people question, well, why is it that, the university or the president didn't defend themselves? Well, because the university counsel was handpicked by our state attorney general, who's doing the bidding for the Department of Justice.
It's so hard. The whole thing is you're basically look at the dances and look at all the things that you guys have to do to battle against things that are happening in your state that are not good faith things. They're not being done for purpose or for governing.
I mean, Doge on Virginia. I mean, the fact that you have an attack on our entire economy and our governor, our current Republican governor and lieutenant governor have said nothing. I mean, it is an abdication of responsibility.
The cowardice of those in this current moment will be written in stone. But I wanted to just thank you guys, congratulate you guys. I know you apparently have states to run now.
We're a Commonwealth in Virginia, actually.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Her Excellency. Get back to your Commonwealth.
Right, so fancy.
Mikie, good luck running our state. And I just wish you the best. But what I'm most pleased with for you is that you both now seem to be in situations where the job is commensurate with your abilities. You're no longer in a House of Representatives that's designed to diminish any possibility of action are in places where you can really start to accomplish the things that I think got you into public service in the first place. And so just thank you both for being here, and congratulations to Mikie Sherrill, the governor-elect of New Jersey, and Abigail Spanberger, the governor-elect of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I hope you have wonderful, I guess, reigns would be the right? No. Terms.
Right. Maybe reigns in Virginia, but terms
in
New Jersey.
Terms of service.
Terms of service. Thank you both.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great one.
Thank you.
It is so funny to me. You know, I've spoken to enough politicians and been enough there. But when they have a personal relationship with each other, it immediately transforms the conversation in such pleasant ways.
Yes.
I love the fact they're like, I have two sisters. She says, oh my God, your sister. She told me. Like, you can tell their history. It really is like, it's like talking to college friends who have kind of a language and a.
Well, they basically did that.
It absolutely felt that way. Yeah.
Being roommates and all. But it was nice to have candid politicians on. Like, it felt a little more candid.
Yeah. They were so lovely and charming, which is very funny considering basically what I know about Mikie before this was from the attack ads that I get from the New York metro area. So it's like Mikie Sherrill as opposed to
relentless.
Mikie. Yeah.
But also even, you know, unfortunately for her as a candidate, then her ads are not reflective of who she is either. Like, you would think at that point, you're like, is New Jersey a helicopter? Because from from these ads, the only thing she knows how to do is fly a helicopter. But it's not that at all. But what I thought was so interesting about the conversation is it shows how the people are the product of the system, not the other way around. The system doesn't seem to be a product of the people. That has grown and metastasized and become. But you've got really good, effective, smart people neutered by a system that is designed to put all the power up into the, you know, barely sentient leadership. And that's where it all lies. And everything that they do are decisions about preserving their own status. And it drives these good people away.
And it really makes you wonder, like, what's wrong with the people that stay and want to operate within the
Hell
system
yes.
as it is.
You know, I really appreciated the candor about Congress. And I actually, a million years ago, interned for Mikie's predecessor, who was a moderate Republican. And he said behind closed doors to me in the one meeting I had with him as an intern, like, if I could do it over again, I'd do the Foreign Service. So, you know, I don't think this is a new idea that people are in love in Congress.
By the way, like, how sad is the meeting you have with your fresh-faced, bushy-tailed interns who are working in a congressional office, and the first thing you say to them is, yeah, it's not a life.
Get out.
It basically was that.
It's not a life. It's not something that you want. That's wild, Brittany. But what do we got from the? We're heading into the break now, the Thanksgiving break. What can we do for the listeners on our way out?
Alrighty. First up, John. When taking on Trump, does Marjorie Taylor Greene have bigger balls than Elon?
Oh wow! I would never even place them on the same. You know, the difference is Elon is, you know, he's a masters of the universe guy. He's in that Silicon Valley, like, who is the next Neo that will be the one that will control all the levers of our new society. So they're such different things. And you can see that Elon would like to repudiate at times this administration, but also understands the $1 trillion contracts and pay packages. And like, if your game is, I will have it all, you know, those guys are all competing in like a Thanos beauty pageant. Like, they all want to know.
Oh my God.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's like just such a very different animal. And by the way, like, good on her for doing that. But like, I'm not exactly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's so ballsy to stand up to her thing. Like, she also sees where the wind is blowing on this. I think this whole like, and now I'm going to go on The View and pretend like I wasn't who I was. It all feels very cynical to me. And, but again, just getting directly back to the question, I think on a purely physical level, I do think her balls are probably bigger. But I'm saying this purely anatomically because I know what ketamine does to the testicles.
Wow. Well, at least she's not deleting her tweets about Trump.
Yes, that's right. Like his thing is so cynical. Like even his Grok AI is full of shit. Like if you plug in there, did Elon back out of an interview with the Daily Show? Grok is like, it's complicated. He's it's an interesting question, but he's a busy man with lots of things. Why would he lower himself? And you're just like, all right. Fucking ridiculous.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. What else?
Jon, what do you think about all of the CEOs attending the White House dinner for MBS?
What did we think they were? Honestly. Like, are people surprised by it? Are people, I cannot believe that the head of Apple, the head of Met, all the different, would sit at a state dinner with the guy who is funneling billions and billions of dollars into their businesses. Donald Trump hosted, this was the whole fucking thing. Do you remember the Mamdani, all these right-wing guys are like, how dare he take a picture with an imam? Has he forgotten the lessons in 9/11? One guy came after me. Has Jon Stewart, he's talking pleasantly with Mamdani. This is a guy, has he forgotten 9/11? First of all, fuck you. Fuck you to the highest order of fucking you that you can be fucked. Don't you ever ask me about that, you fuck. And second of all, your guy hosted a live golf tournament in the shadow of the towers with the Saudis and palled around with them. So again, let me repeat myself. Fuck you. Like the guy you support, like how dare they? It's so shocking. And by the way, like I'll even give it up for it. If you're a businessman and they've got, a funnel and you've never made the case that your business has any moral underpinnings whatsoever. So the idea that you want to hook up your mouth to the largest teats in that area and just suck down as much as that glorious Saudi money as you can get to. But I'm sorry, live golf tournaments are an elective. That is an elective. You make a choice like that. That is not something that your business requires, that it is foundational. That is an elective. And so for any of those right-wing guys that want to go out there and criticize the associations between, anybody that would even talk to Mamdani, because clearly, he's so out there with his points of view. Look in the mirror, fuckface.
Jon, I love it.
Sorry. What I meant to say was, I haven't thought about it much.
It is really crazy how we shouldn't be surprised at all yet seeing MBS in the Oval Office and Trump saying, don't embarrass our guests or whatever to the reporters. It was just shocking still to my system.
And also like getting handsy with him and grabbing him and playing by the knee, like, and giving him a noogie and holding on to him and go like, hey, this Khashoggi guy, he was a real troublesome individual. No, he wasn't.
Just a journalist.
He was just a journalist who asked questions that were uncomfortable. And it's pretty clear that Trump wishes he lived in an environment where all the little piggies can be taken out to a farm upstate. You know what I mean? Like he is so much more comfortable in the trappings of autocracy than he is in the standards of democracy. It's when he is at his most congenial.
Yeah.
He loves it. He loves it. He loves, grabbing Putin's hand on the red carpet and giving, MBS a noogie and having Orban there for a little. They love it. He loves it.
What a friend circle. My God.
With friends like these.
Do you think they have a text chain?
Oh my God. What would it be called?
Immortals, Mount Olympus, Circle of God. Like, they believe themselves all to be touched by. It's a throwback to noblesse oblige. Like, that is right of kings. That's what these guys think it's all about. It's so clear. His relationship with MBS and I'm not naive enough to think like, oh, look, Saudi Arabia we're allied with them. We've been that way. And like pretending that like we're horrified at their actions. Like even the idea Biden he wanted to do the fist bump. Like, oh, I don't like the fact that you killed people, so I'm not going to give you the whole hand. I'm just going to give a fist bump. And that's what Trump was making reference to when he was grabbing him and holding him and all that other shit. But there are electives and there are prerequisites and required courses. And, I'm not naive enough to think this country doesn't do things or have relationships with people that are in a lot of different ways beneath the standard of, moral behavior that we purport to carry ourselves with. But there's a difference between that and gleefully embracing the trappings of it.
Mm-hmm. He loves this shit.
It's not more honest. It's not more authentic. It reveals the world you'd rather live in. He has much more respect for strong men than he does for constitutionalists, by far.
Yeah, I would think Donald Trump would be more upset with what Saudi Arabia did to the PGA Tour than to any journalists. So, true.
No question. And by the way, he loves what they did with Liv, and that's why he hosts. It's great. It's entertaining. Near, the towers, where the towers were. And yet, all these right-wing guys are out there screaming about photos being taken. Fuck them.
Hypocrisy at its finest.
Yeah, it's so disingenuous.
Yeah, sorry. I got a little hot there. I apologize.
I love it.
Yeah.
Take them down.
One by one, baby. To get us into the holiday spirit.
Yes.
Easy
Thank
pivot.
you.
Easy pivot.
Thank you.
Jon, do you think Ozempic will be better or worse for Thanksgiving dinners moving forward?
What an interesting question. I guess it depends on if the turkeys are on it. Just what an interesting thing for Americans. It's basically a holiday that is, turkeys were like, the turkeys that we get are not what turkeys are supposed to be. Like, if you ever look at the heritage turkeys of the American past, like, they were not giant breasted dumbasses that waddled around. Like,
no, they were on Ozempic.
they were free range. So I guess the point is the Ozempic is merely to get us out of a pickle that we put ourselves in. Like the orgy of food that comes along with Thanksgiving is in many ways, like it used to be like, let's do that once a year to celebrate that we didn't get smallpox. And now we put it on the table because it's Thursday and Boston Market had a special. So let's, it will be, I wonder if it will have a demonstrable effect on the amount of food we buy as a nation. I do wonder if you're going to start seeing like Jetsons, like, meal in a pill that has all the nutrients that they think you might not. This has gotten very dark. Guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful, everybody got good plans for the holidays?
I'm going to eat a lot.
I mean, we do the cooking. We're the hosts every year, and we bring it's my favorite holiday. We get all family together. We get a big group. Everybody goes crazy, eats, and it's my favorite for sure.
What's your favorite side?
Oh, it's got to be the sweet potato pie. I'm a sweet potato pie with cranberry. I love the cranberry sweet potato pie. all those different things. And then obviously, like, I'm a pie, like any kind of pie. Come on.
Are you waiting for the end?
Yes.
Thanksgiving?
I don't eat. I have my one frozen protein meal in the morning.
Exactly.
And then I just sniff the pies as I go
Yeah,
along.
that's enough for me.
That's right. And to the audience too, I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We got no podcast next week there. And to everybody who's been listening and all that, we are very thankful for you. But mostly, I am thankful for the people that help put this thing together every week and do such a phenomenal job for it. And those are the ones that you've been talking to, and some others as well. We got our lead producer, Lauren Walker, our producer, Brittany Mimetovic, producer, Jillian Spear, video editor and engineer, Rob Vitolo, audio editor and engineer, Nicole Boyce, and our executive producers, Chris McShane and Katie Gray. Have a wonderful holiday. And we'll see you back in, I guess they call it December, early December. The Weekly Show with Jon Stewart is a Comedy Central podcast. It's produced by Paramount Audio and Busboy Productions.